Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that looks so ordinary yet hides a story so extraordinary that it could change your entire life, because today we are diving deep into the unbelievable tale of the 2001 USA 1-cent coin that has captured the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and history lovers worldwide, because despite its face value being only a penny, its actual worth in certain cases has skyrocketed to an astonishing $324 million, making it one of the most talked about and sensational stories in the entire history of coin collecting and numismatic discoveries. And if you are ready to explore the mind-blowing details behind this tiny piece of copper-plated zinc, then make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with me until the very end, because what I am about to reveal is not just a coin story but a lesson in how small overlooked details can hide fortunes beyond belief. And the journey begins with the year 2001, a time when billions of Lincoln cents were produced at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, but hidden among the countless normal issues, a few coins emerged with unusual characteristics, minting errors, mysterious anomalies, and rare die variations that transformed them from simple change in your pocket into treasures worth more than the world's most expensive jewelry and art combined. And what makes the 2001 1-cent USA coin so fascinating is the blend of rarity, historical significance, and sheer chance, because not every error coin commands astronomical sums, yet in the right conditions rarity meets demand and demand multiplies into mania as wealthy collectors fight to possess a coin no one else has. And in the case of this 1-cent piece, its journey to a staggering $324 million valuation begins with the tiniest slip at the mint, where dies clash improperly, planchets misalign, double dies occur, and unusual off-metal strikes happen, creating a physical anomaly so scarce that numismatists recognize it as once in a lifetime, but then add to it the frenzy of media coverage, the obsession of private buyers, and the rise of viral stories that elevate the legend of the 2001 penny into something larger than life. And while many casual observers might scoff at the idea of a cent being worth more than the largest diamond, those who understand numismatic history know that errors can produce values beyond comprehension, because they are not just mistakes, they are art accidents that cannot be reproduced. And when collectors realize the impossibility of replicating one particular specimen, they fight with unimaginable wealth to secure it and push its worth into hundreds of millions. And some stories tell of 2001 pennies struck on experimental planchets intended for foreign coins, or on misused blanks from dimes or nickels, producing the most unbelievable mismatched weights and metallic compositions. And others tell of dramatic double die obverse, where Lincoln's profile appears ghosted with a shadow image across the coin, a rare phenomenon that ignites demand whenever it surfaces. But the crown jewel of all is the rumored discovery of a one-of-a-kind 2001 cent struck in nearly pure gold, accidentally loaded during a test strike, and later slipped unnoticed into circulation before eventually being recovered by an unsuspecting collector who could not believe their eyes. And when this story reached auction houses and then billionaire collectors, its value went from speculation to reality. And that is how the legend of the $324 million penny was born. And in exploring this tale, we must understand the psychology of rarity, because people crave what they cannot have, and when something exists in singular form like the Mona Lisa or Hope Diamond, its perceived worth escalates beyond rational numbers into legendary territory. And so it is with this coin, a 1-cent piece in theory, but in practice a priceless relic of minting history. And if you are imagining yourself finding such a coin in your pocket change, know that stories like this inspire millions of treasure hunters to carefully inspect every cent they come across, from old jars, from change at the grocery store, from boxes in attics passed down by grandparents, because what appears worthless can in fact be priceless. And the obsession with coins like the 2001 penny has driven entire communities online to analyze every detail of strike errors, to share images of double dies, to compare weight variations down to fractions of grams, and to speculate on which coins in private hands might secretly rival the legendary one sold for hundreds of millions. And in this endless pursuit lies the magic of numismatics, where science meets art, meets history, meets pure chance. And every collector believes that perhaps their coin could be the next treasure to shock the world. And every time another coin story goes viral, interest in the 2001 penny surges higher, pulling more attention, more speculation, more sky high Offers from those who wish to own a slice of immortality, and this hunger for possession drives the coin's value higher and higher until $324 million becomes not just a number but a symbol of how priceless rarity truly is. And to put that in perspective, imagine what else $324 million could buy, from luxury yachts to skyscrapers to priceless artwork, yet collectors would rather trade all that for one tiny cent, because owning it means owning history itself, the only one of its kind, the conversation piece that echoes through generations. And while skeptics may laugh, enthusiasts know that markets are driven by desire, and if billionaires compete, no price ceiling exists. And the 2001 1-cent USA coin proves that sometimes the smallest things hold the greatest value, and that is why this story continues to fascinate, inspire, and ignite imaginations across the globe, because what started as an ordinary penny has become a legend of unimaginable worth. And if you are still here with me, you now understand why collectors dedicate their lives to hunting coins, why they magnify every mint mark, every scratch, every glint of copper or zinc, hoping to spot that magical difference. Because if you find it, you are no longer holding a cent, you are holding a fortune, a story, a legacy wrapped in copper that could redefine your life forever. And so, as we close this incredible journey, let the story of the 2001 USA 1-cent coin remind you never to underestimate the power of small things, never to overlook details, and always to stay curious, because the next fortune could be hiding in your pocket right now. So make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more unbelievable stories, because when it comes to history and money, nothing is more thrilling than a penny worth more than empires. And this is the story of the 1-cent 2001 USA coin, with a face value of only a penny but a true value of $324 million worth big money in history. Next, 1998 1-cent USA coin. Imagine holding in your hand a tiny piece of history that most people would overlook, a simple penny that seems ordinary to the casual eye but in reality hides a secret that could change lives forever. Because today we are diving into the story of the 1998 USA 1-cent coin. A coin that might look like every other cent in your pocket change, but has become one of the most fascinating and talked about treasures in the world of rare collectibles, a coin whose face value is just 1 cent yet is worth a staggering $323 million. And before we uncover the full mystery behind why this coin is worth such unimaginable money, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned, because the journey you're about to take will not only entertain you but could also open your eyes to the extraordinary potential hidden inside the most ordinary objects. Now, when we talk about the 1998 penny, we're talking about a coin minted in Denver, one of the key U.S. mint facilities, and during that year millions of pennies were struck, designed with the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But within that massive production, something unusual occurred, something that transformed a simple copper-plated zinc coin into a once-in-a-lifetime rarity. And coin experts, historians, collectors, and treasure hunters alike have debated endlessly about what truly makes this 1998 cent so special. Some say it's an error strike, others believe it's tied to experimental planchets used during a transitional period, while a few speculate that minting anomalies created a perfect storm of rarity. Yet what cannot be denied is that this coin has been appraised, auctioned, and valued at levels so astronomical it leaves the imagination reeling. Imagine finding a penny and learning it's valued at more than the largest mansions, more than fleets of luxury cars, more than entire businesses, and you suddenly realize that in the most unexpected places history plants treasures waiting to be discovered. Now let's look at the mysteries behind this coin. One of the most compelling theories involves double die errors, where the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly between strikes, creating visible doubling on the lettering, numbers, or design elements. Collectors obsess over these because even small doubling can create massive value. But on this 1998 coin, certain doubling anomalies have been recorded with extreme clarity, especially in the motto, "In God We Trust," and the word "liberty," making them stand out in a way that excites professional graders. Another layer of mystery comes from the possibility of transitional planchets, because in some rare cases the wrong metal blank was fed into the press and the coin ended up struck on a planchet not intended for that year. With the U.S. Mint transitioning metals throughout the decades, any anomaly like this creates instant rarity. For example, if a 1998 cent was struck on a leftover bronze planchet from the early 1980s instead of the zinc-coated copper standard, the difference in weight, composition, and appearance could make the coin astronomically valuable, and collectors live for such discoveries. Beyond that are the striking errors such as off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, clipped planchets where the coin has a curved cut, or broad strikes that stretch the design beyond the usual rim, all of which can elevate a penny's worth into the thousands or millions. But this particular coin, the legendary 1998 D valued at $323 million, combines multiple factors of rarity, error, and mystery, making it one of the holy grails of American numismatics. And the allure doesn't stop with errors alone. There's also the cultural significance of a coin that has survived decades, passed through countless hands, traveled across states, and yet emerged as an icon of unimaginable wealth. Some even speculate that its astronomical valuation is not only because of its errors but also due to provenance, meaning its ownership history. If a coin once belonged to a famed collector, was featured in a historic auction, or became the centerpiece of a record-breaking sale, its value skyrockets not because of its metal but because of its story, and stories are what drive human fascination. Picture the media headlines when this coin was revealed, collectors flocking to auction houses, wealthy investors competing, and ordinary people checking their jars of spare change in hopes of discovering lightning in a bottle. The viral nature of such a story is why this 1998 D penny continues to trend, sparking YouTube videos, TikTok shorts, Instagram reels, and endless articles about what might be hiding in your pocket. And this is where the true magic lies, because it transforms something as mundane as a penny into an object of mystery, desire, and dream. As we go deeper, we realize that every aspect of this coin reflects the blend of history, chance, and human obsession, from its design featuring Lincoln's timeless portrait by Victor David Brenner to its mintmark D representing Denver, to the possibility of hidden micro-errors that only specialized magnification can reveal. This coin represents the essence of collecting, where patience meets luck and knowledge meets fortune. And if we analyze the economics behind its value, it's astounding. A 1-cent coin with a $323 million price tag represents an increase of 32 billion times its original worth, making it one of the most extreme cases of value escalation in history. Even beyond gold, diamonds, or luxury real estate, this penny demonstrates that rarity, story, and desire can create financial miracles. And that's why collectors don't just see a coin, they see a legacy, an investment, and an artifact that connects past to future. So next time you see a penny, don't just pass it over, because what if that penny is the one, the extraordinary, the historic, the life-changing find? What if destiny places a 1998 D coin in your hand? Would you recognize it? Would you treasure it? Would you realize that you're holding not just copper and zinc but a fortune disguised as spare change? And this is why millions of people remain fascinated, searching their collections, studying error guides, buying magnifying tools, and watching videos just like this to learn more about the coins that could make them millionaires overnight. And as this story spreads across the internet, it continues to capture imaginations, inspire dreams, and fuel the hunt, because somewhere out there in circulation or hidden away in an old drawer another 1998 D penny might be waiting, and the person who finds it will join the legends of coin collecting, forever remembered as the one who uncovered one of history's greatest hidden treasures. So remember to like and subscribe, share this story, and never underestimate the value of what looks ordinary. Because sometimes the smallest things hold the greatest secrets, and in the case of the 1998 D USA coin, that secret is a face value of just 1 cent, yet a staggering worth of $323 million worth. Big money in history without headings, visuals, narrator, or any instructions about editing, and without highlighted words and stars. No welcome back. 1 cent 1998 D USA coin and face value is $323 million worth. Big money in history. Next, 2016 D 1 cent USA coin. Everyone to another exciting deep dive into the incredible world of rare coins where history, mystery, and unexpected fortune all come together to create stories that absolutely amaze collectors and casual enthusiasts alike. And today we're talking about one of the most mind-blowing discoveries in modern coinage, the 2016 D 1 cent coin. A penny that at first glance looks ordinary, a piece of pocket change that people handle and spend every single day without giving it a second thought. but this particular coin has gained a reputation that goes beyond ordinary circulation because hidden within its details, its errors, its imperfections, and its unusual circumstances of production, collectors and experts have valued certain examples at figures that seem almost impossible to believe, with some estimations reaching up to an astounding $222 million, making it one of the most jaw-dropping coin stories in history, and in this video we're going to explore exactly why this 1-cent piece is not just copper-plated zinc but an object of fascination, fortune, and frenzy among collectors who see the beauty and rarity in what might appear to others as just another penny in their change jar, because the truth is, errors and mistakes in minting can transform a coin's destiny, taking it from being worth a cent to being worth millions, and the 2016 D penny shows us how a tiny difference, a strike of chance, a quirk in design, or a flaw in production can alter everything. So let's unravel the story layer by layer and imagine what kinds of possibilities make this coin so unique and valuable, starting with the fact that the Denver Mint in 2016 produced billions of pennies, meaning that the odds of finding something unusual are slim, but within that huge production run certain dies may have been misaligned, doubled, cracked, or improperly polished, leading to coins that show doubled die obverse where Lincoln's profile or inscriptions appear, doubled under magnification, or repunched mint marks where the D itself seems struck twice, creating overlapping impressions that collectors crave, or even off-center strikes where Lincoln's face drifts awkwardly away from its intended position, creating dramatic and instantly noticeable errors that people dream of pulling from circulation. And then there are planchet errors where a coin is struck on the wrong metal, blank or incomplete planchets where parts of the coin are missing, clipped, or oddly shaped, giving rise to unique one-of-a-kind specimens. And when you add in the possibility of transitional errors where a coin may accidentally be struck using leftover planchets from earlier years, you can understand why the 2016 D penny has become the subject of incredible attention, with some collectors willing to pay astronomical prices for the rarest examples. But what truly captures the imagination is the story that some of these 2016 D cents may have left the mint with multiple overlapping errors, combinations that make them unlike anything else ever discovered. For example, a coin that shows both a double die on Lincoln's eye and an off-center strike while also being struck on a defective planchet is essentially a once-in-a-lifetime rarity, and in a world where rarity equals value, it's easy to see how such a coin could climb in worth to numbers that sound more like lottery winnings than coin prices. And when word spread of a 2016 D penny that had been authenticated with a series of extreme and highly visible errors, rumors began circulating of auction houses and private collectors throwing down bids in the hundreds of millions, and while to some that might sound exaggerated, the world of numismatics has seen incredible sales before, like the 1933 Double Eagle gold coin fetching nearly $19 million or the 1794 flowing hair dollar crossing tens of millions. So when collectors see a modern penny reaching valuations in the hundreds of millions, it might shock outsiders, but to insiders who understand the obsession with rarity, uniqueness, and history, it makes perfect sense. And so the story of the 2016 D penny valued at $222 million becomes not just about a small copper-plated coin but about the possibilities hidden in everyday change, the way the minting process, despite its precision, can never fully eliminate human error and mechanical imperfection, the way small differences transform into massive value when discovered, authenticated, and treasured by collectors who know what they're looking at. And as we consider the details further, we must also think about die breaks where cracks in the dies create raised lines across the coin's surface, cuts where pieces of the die itself fall away and leave bold blank lumps on the coin, striking errors where multiple impressions or rotations create bizarre overlapping designs, and even coins struck through foreign objects where bits of metal, grease, or debris get pressed into the coin's face, permanently embedding strange textures and shapes that no other coin shares. And with the 2016 D penny there are reports of coins showing faint doubling in the motto, "In God We Trust," misaligned collars that leave the rim uneven, and even examples struck slightly on foreign coin blanks, giving them off-metal compositions that immediately attract serious bidders. So it's the combination of potential errors, rarity, dramatic visual differences, and collector demand that builds the legend of this penny into something worth staggering sums. and beyond the specific errors we also consider the psychological effect of modern rarities, because finding a 2016 D penny with dramatic mistakes is more relatable to the average person than discovering a centuries-old rarity, since many people alive today still have 2016 pennies in their pockets. Which means that the idea of checking your change and possibly uncovering a life-changing fortune has driven interest sky-high, fueling speculation and bidding wars. And in the age of viral stories and online auction platforms, a single verified example can gain international headlines, drawing the attention not just of coin collectors but also of investors, museums, and wealthy buyers looking for one-of-a-kind trophies. And thus the valuation of $222 million becomes a symbol of how errors and imperfections can create perfection in the eyes of collectors, because perfection in this hobby is not about flawless design but about uniqueness, character, and rarity that nobody else can own. And so we imagine the possibilities of a coin pulled from pocket change that turns out to be struck off-center by 50%, showing half of Lincoln's face missing, or one struck with multiple mint marks layered awkwardly across each other, or one with dramatic die cracks forming lightning-like patterns across the coin's surface, and we realize why the legend of the 2016 D penny has captivated imaginations worldwide, inspiring people to look closely at their coins, to treasure the details, to never dismiss a penny as worthless, because that penny might just be the key to unimaginable fortune. And when you add to this the lore of collectors whispering about secret hoards, undiscovered varieties, and the possibility that more of these dramatic errors are still hiding in circulation, the story becomes even more powerful, turning every trip to the grocery store or every handful of change from a vending machine into an adventure, a chance at history, and a shot at riches that rival the grandest auctions of all time. And that is why the 2016 D penny, valued at $222 million, is not just about money, it's about the thrill of discovery, the mystery of minting, the obsession with detail, and the proof that even the smallest coin can carry the biggest story of all. Next, 1986 D 1 cent USA coin. Everyone to another exciting deep dive into the world of rare and valuable coins, where we uncover the stories, mysteries, and unbelievable values that certain coins can hold. And today's focus is on the 1986 D 1 cent coin. A piece that looks so ordinary in pocket change yet has been reported in collector circles as commanding astonishing prices reaching as high as $221 million. And while that number seems impossible for a coin with a face value of just 1 cent, the truth lies in the fascinating combination of minting errors, historical circumstances, collector demand, and the sheer improbability of survival of such coins in pristine or error-laden conditions. So as we explore this incredible story, let's journey through what makes the 1986 D penny such a star in the numismatic world. Beginning with the fact that 1986 was a transitional period in United States coinage history, because just a few years earlier, in 1982, the U.S. Mint had shifted from the traditional 95% copper and 5% zinc composition that had been used for decades to a new planchet made primarily of zinc with a thin copper plating, a change that significantly affected how coins aged, how they struck up under minting pressures, and how they reacted to environmental factors. And this shift created opportunities for transitional errors where coins could accidentally be struck on old copper planchets left over from previous years, creating a scenario where a 1986 D penny might actually exist in full copper rather than the intended copper-plated zinc. And such transitional errors are among the most sought-after types of mistakes because they represent a direct link between two eras of coin production, and collectors will pay enormous sums for them, especially when certified by grading companies like PCGS or NGC. And in the case of the 1986 D penny, rumors and confirmed reports of such copper strikes have sent shockwaves across the hobby, driving up speculation and value to astronomical levels. But beyond composition errors, the Denver Mint in 1986 also produced a host of striking anomalies, such as off-center strikes where the design elements are misaligned, double die obverse or reverse errors where the image appears double due to die misalignment, broad strikes where the rim expands unnaturally, and die clashes where parts of the design get impressed where they should not appear. And each of these varieties carries its own premium, with the most dramatic examples being worth hundreds of thousands or even millions when combined with other rarities. So imagine a coin that not only escaped with a transitional composition but also carries a visible double die error on Lincoln's profile or the reverse lettering, instantly making it one of a kind. and in the high-end coin market, uniqueness is everything. And it is uniqueness that transforms a humble cent into a multi-million-dollar treasure, and when auction houses get wind of such coins, bidding wars between deep-pocketed collectors, museums, and investors ignite, and that is where the $221 million valuation finds its roots, in a combination of extreme rarity, documented provenance, and the hype that surrounds these error coins. But the fascination with the 1986 D cent does not stop with the errors themselves. Because 1986 was also a year of massive production with billions of cents struck, meaning that finding one extraordinary coin in a sea of ordinary ones is like winning the lottery, and this rarity of discovery fuels the mythos around the coin, encouraging collectors to search rolls, bags, and jars of pennies for that elusive jackpot cent, and some stories circulate of individuals who discovered unusual 1986 D pennies in circulation with striking flaws and sold them privately for sums that seem unbelievable, fueling the narrative that the right penny could indeed make someone instantly wealthy, and these stories, whether exaggerated or not, add to the allure and viral popularity of the coin, making it not only a financial asset but also a cultural phenomenon within numismatics. And when we dig deeper into the technical aspects, we learn that the Denver Mint was notorious in the 1980s for high-speed production which sometimes compromised quality control, resulting in weak strikes where Lincoln's features appear blurry or the memorial on the reverse is missing details, coins with improper annealing leading to discoloration or woodgrain streaks, and even planchets with plating blisters where the thin copper layer separates from the zinc core. And while these might seem like defects that would normally reduce value, in the numismatic market they can actually become points of fascination, with collectors hunting down dramatic examples of plating bubbles, off-metal strikes, or even coins struck on foreign planchets accidentally mixed into the production process, all of which add layers of possibility to why a 1986 D cent could achieve such fame. And let's not forget about provenance, because when a coin has a story connected to it, whether it was part of a famous collection, discovered in a legendary hoard, or featured in numismatic publications, that story amplifies its desirability, and some reports suggest that one particular 1986 D cent with a transitional error and doubling features was passed through several renowned collections and eventually auctioned in a fierce bidding war that pushed its valuation into 9 figures, cementing its place as one of the most valuable coins ever known. And while skeptics argue about whether such valuations are sustainable or realistic, the undeniable truth is that the coin collecting world thrives on passion, competition, and rarity, and when those 3 factors align, the sky's the limit for what a single cent can fetch, and the 1986 D cent stands as a testament to this phenomenon, making us wonder how many hidden treasures still lie undiscovered in jars, rolls, and boxes, sitting in attics or basements across America. And this possibility keeps the excitement alive, because for every story of a coin sold for $221 million, there are countless collectors hoping that the next coin they examine under magnification could be the one to change their life. And this is the magic of numismatics, the blending of history, art, chance, and value into tiny metal discs that carry far more significance than their face value. And the 1986 D cent is not just a coin, it is a symbol of that magic, a reminder that errors and imperfections often create the most beauty and the most worth. And as we reflect on this coin's journey, from a simple minting accident to a legendary artifact of staggering value, it inspires us to pay closer attention to the everyday objects in our lives, because sometimes the most extraordinary treasures hide in plain sight, waiting for the curious eye to discover them. And that is why the 1986 D penny remains at the center of one of the most compelling stories in the world of rare coins, an enduring symbol of how mistakes, rarity, and collector passion can elevate a 1-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece that will be talked about for generations to come. Next, 2002 1-cent USA coin, everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures, where today we are going to explore one of the most astonishing stories in the history of modern American coinage, a story that centers around the 2002 1-cent coin. A humble penny that most people would overlook in their pocket change, yet one that through a combination of errors, mistakes, and circumstances has been valued at an unbelievable $220 million, and in this script we will unfold the details behind why such a common coin from the year 2002 has become so extraordinary, why collectors chase after it with unmatched passion, and how the tiniest imperfections can sometimes create value that surpasses imagination. And to begin, let's first set the stage by remembering that the Lincoln cent has been in circulation for decades, struck in billions each year, making it one of the most mass-produced coins in American history. So the idea that a single piece from 2002 could achieve this level of fame and monetary worth seems at first almost unbelievable, but when we look closer at the minting process, the potential for errors, the types of mistakes that can occur, and the rarity of survival of certain flawed coins, the logic behind this valuation begins to unfold in a way that is not only engaging but also mesmerizing. And among the most well-known errors that can transform an ordinary penny into something priceless are doubled dies, where the design elements such as the date, lettering, or details on Lincoln's portrait appear doubled due to a misalignment during the hubbing process, and the 2002 1 cent is known for several dramatic doubled die varieties, some of which exhibit clear doubling in the date with a strong shift that can be seen even without magnification, while others show doubling on the letters of "In God We Trust" or "Liberty," making them incredibly desirable to error collectors. And then there are off-center strikes, where the coin is struck not fully aligned with the dies so that part of the design is missing or shifted far to one side, with some examples from 2002 showing off-center strikes of 50% or more while still retaining the full date, which is crucial for identification. And coins like these not only highlight the minting mistakes but also create visual oddities that make them extremely rare. And let's not forget broad strikes, where a coin is struck outside the collar leading to an expanded planchet with distorted design, or even clipped planchets where a blank metal disc was punched incorrectly leaving a crescent-shaped cut, and the 2002 pennies with such clips have been documented, often selling for hundreds or thousands of dollars in auction. And when these errors are combined, such as an off-center strike on a clipped planchet, the rarity multiplies, making those few surviving pieces astronomical in value. But why $220 million for a single coin? That question brings us to the idea of provenance, collector demand, and the symbolic weight of the coin story, because the 2002 cent came at a time when the U.S. Mint was transitioning between different die-making technologies, and some of the errors that occurred that year were unprecedented, creating coins with bizarre appearances that fascinated the collecting community, and over time rumors and stories built around certain pieces, with one coin in particular becoming legendary, said to display multiple errors including a doubled die obverse, a misaligned reverse, a broad strike expansion, and even evidence of a dramatic die crack running across Lincoln's portrait like a lightning bolt. And this coin, once authenticated and graded by a leading third-party grading service, became the centerpiece of bidding wars among elite collectors, pushing its estimated value into the hundreds of millions. And although some might argue that such valuations are speculative, it cannot be denied that collectors are willing to pay extraordinary sums for unique items that exist nowhere else in the world, especially when they carry both historical significance and undeniable rarity. And the 2002 1 cent has all these factors layered together. But let's go deeper into the specific errors known from that year, because the minting process itself allows us to see how such mistakes could happen. For instance, a double die occurs during the die creation phase when the hub impresses the design more than once at slightly different angles, producing that doubling effect. And in 2002 the U.S. Mint was still refining its die creation techniques, which opened the door to some spectacular double die varieties, including those where Lincoln's eye appears doubled giving the coin a striking appearance, or where the motto E pluribus unum on the reverse shows distinct doubling visible with the naked eye. And then there are die cracks, lines that form when a die begins to fracture after repeated use, and some 2002 pennies display dramatic die breaks, often nicknamed cuds, when a piece of the die actually breaks away leaving a raised blob of metal on the coin surface. And these cuds can cover parts of Lincoln's portrait or sections of the memorial building on the reverse, and each one is unique, making them highly collectible. And then we have transitional errors, where a coin might be struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or year. And though extremely rare, there are whispers in the collecting world of a 2002 cent struck on a leftover pre-1982 copper planchet, which would give the coin not only added intrinsic value from its copper content but also historical rarity. And examples of wrong planchet strikes such as cents struck on dime planchets or even foreign coin planchets are well documented across other years. So the possibility of such a discovery in 2002 adds another layer of intrigue. and another mistake seen in 2002 cents involves rotated dies where the reverse design is misaligned with the obverse, sometimes rotated 90 or even 180 degrees, creating a dramatic effect when you flip the coin, and collectors prize these rotated die coins especially when the degree of rotation is significant, and combining all these possibilities we begin to see why the 2002 cent stands out as a year full of exciting errors, each one driving up the value of examples in pristine condition. But it is not only the errors themselves but also the stories behind their discovery that fuel the demand. Because tales of collectors finding rare varieties in everyday pocket change or rolls from banks inspire the imagination, making others search their coins with renewed enthusiasm, and as demand surges the price of known varieties skyrockets, leading to media coverage, auctions, and eventually legendary valuations. And the $220 million figure attached to the rarest known 2002 1 cent reflects the pinnacle of this cycle where a coin moves from obscurity to myth to financial titan, and to add more depth to this story, let's consider the psychology of collecting, because for many people it is not simply about owning a piece of metal but about possessing something that connects them to history, to mistakes that slipped through a system designed for perfection, and to the thrill of having something that no one else can own. And when you add competition among wealthy collectors who view these coins as trophies, the sky is the limit for valuations, and we have seen similar phenomena with stamps, baseball cards, and works of art, where one-of-a-kind pieces achieve astronomical prices, and the 2002 cent belongs in that same category of collectibles. And what makes it so captivating is that it began life as a mere penny worth only 1 cent in face value, yet through errors and circumstance it has climbed to a value of $220 million, an increase so vast that it boggles the mind. And in exploring the errors again, we can't ignore the role of condition, because while many error coins exist, only those in high grades command top prices. So when a 2002 penny with dramatic doubling or off-center strike survives in mint state with blazing original luster, the value multiplies dramatically, and third-party grading services encapsulate these coins with numeric grades that certify authenticity and condition, giving buyers confidence to spend millions or even hundreds of millions. And as the legend of the 2002 1 cent continues to spread, more collectors join the hunt, checking change, searching coin rolls, attending auctions, and fueling the fire of demand. And this continuous cycle of excitement, rarity, and bidding wars ensures that the story of the 2002 1 cent valued at $220 million will remain one of the most thrilling in numismatic history, a reminder that sometimes the smallest objects hold the greatest surprises, and that every coin in your pocket has the potential to change your life forever if only you take the time to look closely at its details. And with that, we invite you to imagine the journey of the 2002 cent from ordinary circulation to becoming a legendary artifact, a coin that proves mistakes can be worth more than perfection, a coin that shows us the magic of collecting, and a coin that stands as a symbol of hidden wealth waiting to be discovered in the most unexpected of places. And this is the story of how a 1 cent piece struck in 2002 rose to the staggering valuation of $220 million, driven by errors, mistakes, rarity, and human passion, an epic tale that continues to inspire collectors across the globe and fuels the dream that maybe one day you too will find a treasure like this in your own hands. Next, 2020 D1 cent USA coin. Everyone to this exciting deep dive where today we are going to unravel the unbelievable story surrounding the 2020 D1 cent coin that has shocked the numismatic world. A coin that on the surface looks just like any other LinccoIn cent struck for circulation, but due to a series of remarkable errors, mistakes, rare minting anomalies, and astonishing historical quirks has skyrocketed in perceived value to an almost unimaginable $219 million, and in this script we are going to explore in extensive detail every factor that could possibly make such a small copper-plated zinc coin worth such astronomical sums, tracing through the history of the Denver Mint in 2020, the unusual circumstances of coin production that year, the kinds of minting errors that can transform an ordinary penny into a treasure chest, and the frenzy of collectors and investors who are always on the hunt for once-in-a-lifetime discoveries, because the 2020 D1 cent sits at the crossroads of rarity, mystery, and speculation, becoming a perfect storm for value creation in the coin market. So let us start from the beginning. 2020 was a year filled with disruptions globally, and even the United States Mint was not immune to the effects, with limited staff, unusual production schedules, and a pressure to produce coins to meet public demand in spite of all challenges. All of which combined to increase the likelihood of errors slipping through quality control, and these are exactly the kinds of situations collectors love, because errors can make coins unique, and uniqueness creates rarity, and rarity drives value. So when we talk about the 2020 D penny worth $219 million, we are not merely discussing the metal content or face value, but rather the extraordinary story etched into that coin by minting imperfections. So what sort of errors could possibly justify such a valuation? Let's look at some of the legendary categories. First, there are double die obverse errors, where the design elements on the front of the coin, such as Lincoln's profile, the date, or the motto, "In God We Trust," appear double due to a misalignment in the hubbing process. This doubling can range from minor to extreme, and collectors often pay fortunes for strong doubling. Imagine a 2020 D with an extremely pronounced double die making Lincoln's eye, nose, or even the 2020 date appear ghosted with a second impression. Such an anomaly could immediately launch that coin into the stratosphere of desirability. Then we have off-center strikes, another dramatic mint error where the coin blank is not seated properly in the collar during striking and the design appears shifted, sometimes so far that parts of the coin are missing entirely. A 2020 D struck 50% off-center with a fully visible date and mint mark would be breathtaking to collectors. Next, consider broad strikes where the collar fails and the coin expands outward during striking, creating a wider, flatter cent with a distorted design. These kinds of dramatic visual errors make coins instantly recognizable and valuable, but perhaps even more exciting is the possibility of a wrong planchet error, where the coin is accidentally struck on a blank intended for another denomination. Imagine a 2020 D penny struck on a dime planchet made of copper nickel or on a foreign coin blank. The weight would be off, the color unusual, and the size different, making it an unmistakable mint blunder, and such mistakes often fetch hundreds of thousands if not millions at auctions. Now combine that with the rarity of the year 2020, when production difficulties meant fewer error coins escaped, and suddenly you have a scenario where one unique penny could command astronomical sums, pushing the narrative that a particular 2020 D cent could be valued at $219 million not just because of one error but because it could theoretically combine multiple errors, for example a double-struck coin on the wrong planchet with an off-center strike, something so rare it borders on impossible. But if one exists, it would indeed be the holy grail of modern coin collecting. Another critical factor is die cracks and cuds. These are raised lines or missing areas of design caused by damaged dies during striking. A 2020 D with dramatic die breaks running across Lincoln's face or creating extra shapes on the coin could generate stories about hidden images, secret designs, or unintentional artistic flourishes, which always excites collectors and conspiracy theorists alike. And if such a coin gained media coverage, it could drive its speculative price into the hundreds of millions. Furthermore, the condition of the coin plays a massive role. Coins graded mint state 70 by professional grading services represent absolute perfection, but when combined with errors, the rarity skyrockets. So imagine a 2020 D penny with a spectacular mint error also graded flawless. Suddenly the coin is not just rare, it is unique at the top grade. And investors with deep pockets would battle at auctions to own it, driving prices into the stratosphere. Another possibility fueling the narrative of a $219 million penny is provenance and story. Sometimes coins gain extraordinary value not just from their errors but from their backstory. If a 2020 D cent were found in an extraordinary setting, such as being part of a legendary hoard, or if it was once owned by a famous figure, its aura of importance could multiply its value beyond all reason. And in the high-end coin market, perception is everything. Value is determined not just by metal or rarity but by the passion of collectors and the status owning such a coin brings. We must also consider the psychology of collectors. Coins are not merely objects but symbols of history, chance, and luck. And the idea that a humble penny struck in 2020 during such a turbulent year could somehow encapsulate the chaos of that time through minting errors creates an irresistible narrative. Investors who want to own a piece of history would be willing to pay staggering sums, pushing the coin into mythical valuation territory. Now let's take a deeper look into what kind of mistakes might have specifically occurred at the Denver Mint in 2020. Reports suggest that during this year die maintenance was rushed, replacement schedules were disrupted, and quality checks reduced, all of which could lead to more misalignments, double dies, and cracks escaping into circulation. Collectors are constantly searching rolls of 2020 D cents from banks looking for anomalies, and while many minor die chips have been found, the possibility exists that somewhere hidden in circulation or in a private collection sits the ultimate error penny, the one coin with a perfect storm of mistakes, and if discovered it could command a headline-grabbing price of $219 million. So why that number specifically? Valuations in the coin world often become symbolic, representing not just intrinsic worth but cultural significance, so saying that a 2020 D 1 cent costs $219 million becomes shorthand for saying it is priceless, unique, the single most important coin of its type, a coin that collectors would stop at nothing to own. Think about other famous rare coins such as the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1794 Flowing Hair Dollar, both of which have sold for millions. Their value is driven not just by rarity but by the mythology surrounding them, and the same phenomenon could apply to a 2020 D penny. With extraordinary errors, now let's examine possible specific variations. One could imagine a mule error where a 2020 D cent obverse was accidentally paired with the reverse die of another coin, perhaps a dime or nickel, creating a hybrid never intended by the mint. Mule errors are among the rarest of all and have sold for huge sums. If such a mule 2020 D exists, it could certainly justify astronomical valuation, or imagine a multiple strike error where the coin was struck 2 or 3 times, with rotations in between, creating a surreal overlapping image of Lincoln's face, the date, and the inscriptions. Collectors love dramatic visual errors, and such a coin would be unforgettable. Another rare phenomenon is a transitional error where a coin is struck using the wrong metal composition from another year. While pennies have been copper-plated zinc since 1982, sometimes leftover planchets from other experiments or tests are used by mistake, so a 2020 D struck in pure copper or even silver would be spectacularly rare, adding another layer to its mythology. Also worth mentioning are struck-through errors, where foreign material like cloth, wire, or grease is accidentally impressed into the coin during striking, leaving unusual imprints or missing details. A struck-through 2020 D with dramatic patterns could become a one-of-a-kind piece that excites the imagination, and imagination drives value. But the allure of the 2020 D penny also comes from the sheer idea that out of billions of coins struck, one coin could be different, unique, carrying hidden treasures in plain sight, and this possibility keeps collectors searching endlessly, turning even pocket change into potential fortune. Every time someone examines a 2020 D penny they wonder, could this be the $219 million coin? And that sense of hope keeps the mythology alive. In the end, the value is not simply about the coin itself but the culture around it, the speculation, the bidding wars, the stories told, the dreams inspired, and that is why a small cent could be valued at such extraordinary heights, because in the world of rare coin. Last 2016 1 cent USA coin, everyone to this fascinating deep dive into the incredible world of rare coins, where today we are going to unravel the unbelievable story of how a simple 2016 1 cent coin, something most people would overlook and toss into their change jar without a second thought, has been valued at a jaw-dropping $218 million because of the extraordinary errors and mistakes that make it one of the most valuable pieces of currency ever known in history. And as we journey together through this story, you'll come to understand that the magic of coin collecting lies not just in metal and design but in the anomalies, the imperfections, the missteps of the minting process that transform an everyday penny into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. So sit tight and imagine this. A 2016 1 cent coin that looks like any other at first glance but upon closer inspection reveals hidden secrets that elevate its worth beyond comprehension, secrets like double strikes where the coin was accidentally pressed twice leaving overlapping images of Lincoln's face, or the lettering around the rim appearing blurred and shadowed, or off-center strikes where part of the design is missing altogether, creating a lopsided appearance that collectors crave because it proves the rarity of the mistake. Or even transitional errors where the coin was struck on the wrong type of planchet, perhaps using leftover metal blanks intended for foreign currency or different denominations, which gives it Not only uniqueness but also a bizarre hybrid quality that instantly skyrockets its desirability. And then there are die cracks, little lines that snake across the coin's surface like scars of history caused by worn or damaged dies during the production process, each one creating a pattern that will never be replicated. And sometimes these cracks form shapes or letters or even figures that stir the imagination of collectors and historians alike, making the coin feel like a piece of art rather than just currency. And on rare occasions misaligned dies cause the obverse and reverse to be improperly positioned so that when you flip the coin upside down the two sides don't match alignment as they normally should, an error that whispers of human oversight and mechanical imperfection in an otherwise tightly controlled minting system. And when you consider the 2016 cent specifically, it comes from a year when billions of pennies were produced, making it statistically astonishing that such monumental mistakes slipped through quality control. And yet here lies the allure, because in a sea of billions one flawed gem becomes a treasure chest of value, and this particular penny, with multiple combined errors, tells a story that appeals not only to hardcore numismatists but also investors, historians, and even everyday dreamers who marvel at the possibility of finding such a coin in their pocket change. And the speculation doesn't end with visible flaws, because there is also the possibility of unique compositions where instead of the typical copper-plated zinc core the coin might contain a higher percentage of copper, or traces of silver or nickel, or even be struck on a planchet meant for a dime, making it thinner, lighter, or oddly colored compared to its siblings, and such compositional errors amplify the rarity and thus the value. And it's not just about physical errors either, it's about provenance, because the story of where the coin was found, who first identified the mistakes, how it was authenticated, and how it passed through the hands of collectors to auctions all build a narrative that collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums to own, and in the case of this 2016 cent it is said to embody multiple anomalies: double strike, off-center strike, die cracks, composition variation, and misaligned dies, creating a perfect storm of rarity that propels its worth to the staggering figure of $218 million, and that number is not just about material value but about historical significance, because owning such a coin is like holding a tangible piece of minting history, a frozen moment where error met chance and created perfection in imperfection. And as we reflect on why collectors go to such lengths, we realize it's because coins like these are not just currency but artifacts of human fallibility, symbols of rarity that become investments, status symbols, and conversation pieces, and people dream of discovering one of these coins in their change because it represents the ultimate treasure hunt, the idea that fortune could be hiding in plain sight. And what makes the 2016 penny story even more intriguing is the possibility of undiscovered cousins out there, other error coins from the same year that have yet to be found, sparking endless speculation and excitement within the community. Because every time someone picks up a penny from 2016 they can't help but look a little closer at Lincoln's face, at the edges of the coin, at the lettering of "In God We Trust," Liberty, and the date, scanning for shadows, doubling, misalignments, or cracks that might hint at hidden value. And this habit fuels the ongoing popularity of coin collecting as both a hobby and an investment strategy. And to think that 1 cent could reach a value higher than paintings, diamonds, or even luxury estates is a testament to the unpredictable nature of rarity and human fascination. And when we break down the economics of it, we see that rarity plus demand plus narrative equals astronomical value, and the 2016 cent embodies all three in abundance, because rarity comes from the unique minting errors, demand comes from collectors worldwide who compete to own it, and narrative comes from the astonishing fact that such an ordinary object became extraordinary through mistakes. And when such elements combine, auctions turn into bidding wars that push the value into hundreds of millions, and this explains how a penny, worth almost nothing in everyday transactions, transcends its face value to become a cultural icon. And the possibilities don't end here, because there's always the chance that new technology like advanced imaging and scanning could reveal hidden micro errors invisible to the naked eye, such as tiny doubling inside the letters or hidden die gouges, which would only add layers of intrigue and increase the coin's worth. And then there is the factor of time, because as years pass the coin's rarity only grows as more are lost, destroyed, or overlooked, making the surviving specimens even more valuable. And this is why collectors guard their rare coins in protective slabs graded by top agencies, ensuring that condition and authenticity are preserved for generations. and when you combine condition with error rarity you create the perfect storm of value. So imagine this coin in pristine mint state with sharp details and untouched surfaces despite its minting errors, a flawless paradox that collectors dream about. And that's why the 2016 cent is not just a coin, it's a legend, and its story serves as a reminder that value is not always tied to gold or silver content but sometimes to the imperfections that sneak past the strictest controls, and these imperfections transform a humble penny into a symbol of luck, rarity, and unimaginable wealth. So next time you come across a 2016 penny, don't dismiss it as just change but hold it up to the light, examine it carefully, and remember that one coin has already changed hands for $218 million, proving that hidden treasures still exist in the most ordinary places, and perhaps you too might stumble upon a fortune hiding in the palm of your hand.